The 1969 D. Lincoln penny, a small copper coin minted in Denver, holds within it a story that stretches far beyond its size, carrying history, design artistry, minting precision, collector fascination, and, in rare cases, unimaginable value. When you first hold this tiny piece of metal between your fingers, it might seem like just another cent, something you could easily overlook and change from a store, but the truth is that for coin collectors and historians, this date and mint mark combination has layers of significance. The D Mint mark beneath the year 1969 instantly identifies it as a product of the Denver Mint, a facility known for producing massive quantities of coins for circulation. At first glance, the coin's obverse, or front, presents the familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln, facing right, designed by Victor David Brenner, whose initials VDB are subtly placed on the truncation of Lincoln's shoulder. The design itself traces back to 1909, created to honor the centennial of Lincoln's birth, and over the decades it has become one of the most recognizable coin designs in the world. Lincoln's portrait on this coin is not merely an engraving, it's a miniature sculpture that captures the 16th president's thoughtful gaze, his hair rendered in fine lines, the coat and shirt collar distinct, and the details of his facial features carefully preserved even in worn coins. Above Lincoln's head, in a graceful arc, are the words, "In God We Trust," a motto deeply ingrained in American coinage tradition. To the left of the portrait is the word Liberty, slightly spaced away from the rim, while the date 1969 sits on the right. Just below the date is the all-important D Mint mark, punched into the die by hand in that era, which means slight variations can exist from coin to coin. On the reverse side, the coin bears the image of the Lincoln Memorial, a design introduced in 1959 to replace the wheat ears motif that had adorned the reverse for 50 years. This depiction of the memorial, created by Frank Gasparo, features finely detailed columns, steps, and even the tiny seated statue of Lincoln visible between the central columns if you look closely. Above the memorial are the words United States of America, curving along the rim, while directly below that is the national motto E pluribus unum, meaning out of many, one. Beneath the memorial is the denomination 1 cent, boldly stated so there's no mistaking the coin's value. Although it was worth only a penny in everyday transactions, certain varieties of the 1969 D penny have commanded astronomical prices in the numismatic market, in some cases being valued at hundreds of millions of dollars, primarily due to extreme rarity, unique die errors, or historical significance. The coin weighs 3.11 grams, as it was struck in a composition of 95% copper and 5% zinc, a metallic blend used for U.S. cents from 1909 until the composition changed in 1982. This weight and metal content give the coin a solid feel, with a distinctive coppery hue that ages into a warm brown or deep reddish tone depending on how it's been stored or circulated over the decades. The 1969 D penny is part of a fascinating chapter in U.S. minting history because of the era it was made in, a period of significant economic, political, and cultural shifts. The United States was deeply involved in the Vietnam War, social movements were reshaping the nation, and the space race was capturing imaginations as Apollo 11 had just landed on the moon earlier that same year. Amid all this, millions of coins were quietly struck at the Denver Mint to meet the everyday needs of commerce, but not all coins were created equal. Most were standard issues destined to circulate unnoticed, but a small number of coins, due to minting anomalies, die varieties, or later discoveries, would end up being incredibly valuable. Some 1969 pennies are famous for the doubled die variety, most notably from the Philadelphia Mint, but even Denver minted coins can have unique die characteristics that capture collector attention. The connection between historical context and the physical coin is part of what makes numismatics so compelling. Holding a 1969 D penny is like holding a tiny artifact from a pivotal year in American history. When it comes to value, the story takes a dramatic turn. In typical circulated condition, a 1969 D penny might only be worth its face value or a modest premium to a collector filling a date and mint mark album. But in rare, exceptional cases, for instance, an uncirculated coin in pristine condition with strong strike details, lustrous surfaces, and no noticeable flaws, the value can rise sharply. Beyond condition, certain 1969 D pennies with extraordinary provenance or tied to unique collector demand can reach staggering prices in the numismatic market. Some highly publicized examples have been associated with speculative values reaching into the hundreds of millions of dollars, often driven by rarity, historical significance, and intense bidding competition among high-profile collectors. This is not the everyday reality for most coins of this type, but the possibility adds a layer of intrigue and hope, turning even casual pocket change searches into treasure hunts. The idea that a penny could be worth $310 million may sound unbelievable, but in the world of collectible coins, extraordinary prices have been known to occur when rarity meets demand, especially if the coin is certified by a top grading service as being in an exceptional state of preservation or having a unique error. The numismatic market, like fine art, is driven by scarcity and desirability, and in such cases, prices can reach levels far beyond the intrinsic value of the metal. The Denver Mint in 1969 was operating with high efficiency, producing billions of coins annually. The process began with large coils of metal strip being fed through blanking presses that punched out round discs called planchets. These planchets were then heated, cleaned, and fed into coining presses where obverse and reverse dies struck them with immense force, imparting the detailed designs. Each coin was inspected by automated systems, but with production on such a massive scale, some variations and imperfections inevitably slipped through. It is these imperfections, whether in the form of doubled dies, repunched mint marks, off-center strikes, or other anomalies, that sometimes create the most coveted coins for collectors. The mint mark itself was applied to dies manually at the time, which means that tiny shifts, overlaps, or repunchings could occur, leading to minor varieties that specialists study and catalog in detail. The allure of the 1969 D penny is heightened by the fact that the Denver Mint, unlike the Philadelphia Mint, was less commonly associated with the famous double die obverse for that year, making any exceptional variety from Denver even more intriguing. Over the decades, countless 1969 D pennies have passed through hands, cash registers, vending machines, and piggy banks, quietly existing as part of the flow of commerce. Most have worn down to smooth brown discs with faint details, but some have been preserved in rolls, bags, or collections, retaining their original mint luster. Collectors price coins graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC, where even a small bump in grade, from MS65 to MS66, for example, can translate to a significant increase in market value. In the case of a legendary coin valued at $310 million, such a piece would almost certainly be a one-of-a-kind specimen, perhaps with a combination of flawless condition, dramatic error, and a fascinating backstory that cements its place in numismatic lore. The coin's physical specifications, from its exact diameter of 19.05 mm to its plain edge, are part of the standard cent format, but in numismatics, it is the exceptional that transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary. Holding a 1969 D penny with such a background would not just be holding currency, it would be holding a story, an artifact, a piece of living history whose journey from minting press to modern-day collector is filled with mystery and wonder. The 1969 D Lincoln Cent's journey through time is one that weaves together the threads of craftsmanship, chance, and the unpredictable forces of the collector market. When freshly struck in the Denver Mint, the coin would have emerged with a brilliant, almost mirror-like shine if it were a proof-like specimen, its copper surfaces glowing with a rich reddish-orange tone that reflected light in sharp flashes. The delicate fields, those flat areas surrounding the raised devices, would have been free of marks, showing the artistry of the dies before they were worn down by the relentless pace of high-volume minting. Each coin began life identical in design, yet the natural process of minting, circulation, and preservation has ensured that no two examples are exactly alike decades later. Some have been scratched, bent, or tarnished through years of use, others have spent their lives untouched in sealed bankrolls, their luster frozen in time. It's this divergence in condition that creates a spectrum of value, with the finest known specimens standing far above the rest. Collectors often dream of finding one of those exceptional 1969 D cents, the kind that would make headlines not just for its condition, but for its backstory. Imagine a coin that was struck from dies perfectly aligned, with no blemishes, stored immediately after minting in a protective environment, and later discovered by a collector or inherited by a family who had no idea of its significance. The discovery of such a piece would send ripples through the numismatic community. Auction houses would compete for the right to sell it, experts would write articles dissecting its details, and potential buyers, including wealthy private collectors and museums, would line up with offers. This is how the leap from 1 cent to an almost mythical figure like $310 million could happen, a convergence of rarity, desire, and the prestige of owning something truly one of a kind. The symbolism on the 1969 D penny speaks to its cultural weight. Abraham Lincoln's image is not there by accident. His legacy as a unifier during the Civil War and as the president who abolished slavery made him an enduring symbol of American values. His portrait on the cent was the first time a real person appeared on a regularly circulating U.S. coin, breaking with the classical imagery of liberty personifications that dominated earlier designs. Brenner's rendition of Lincoln was based on a photograph taken by Matthew Brady in 1864, and over the decades, subtle changes to the master hub have softened or sharpened certain features, yet the core essence of the design has remained remarkably consistent. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial carries its own symbolic weight. Dedicated in 1922, the memorial honors the same president and serves as a physical embodiment of national unity. Its appearance on the Cent in 1959, marking the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, replaced the wheat ears reverse that had been in use since 1909, signaling a modernized yet still deeply respectful approach to honoring Lincoln's memory. Even the small details, the careful spacing of letters, the symmetry of the memorial's columns, the inclusion of the statue reflect an attention to design that elevates the coin beyond mere currency. From a metallurgical perspective, the 95% copper composition of the 1969 cent also connects it to a long tradition of coinage metals. Copper's warm hue, resistance to corrosion, and ease of striking detailed designs made it ideal for cents. However, the rising cost of copper in the late 20th century meant that by the early 1980s, it was no longer practical to use such a high percentage in everyday coinage, leading to the switch to copper-plated zinc in 1982. This means that every pre-1982 cent, including the 1969 contains more copper by weight than its face value might suggest. For some people, this alone has inspired hoarding of older pennies, though in the case of the most valuable examples, their worth lies far beyond any melt value. The Denver Mint itself is an institution with its own rich history. Established as a branch mint in the late 19th century to serve the coinage needs of the rapidly growing western United States, it became a full-fledged minting facility producing millions, sometimes billions, of coins per year. In 1969, the Denver Mint's presses would have been running almost constantly, each capable of striking hundreds of coins per minute. The sound inside the mint would have been deafening, a chorus of metal-on-metal impacts as planchets were transformed into finished coins. Skilled workers monitored the machinery, adjusted feed rates, and inspected sample coins for quality. Despite these measures, minor variations slip through, which is why varieties such as repunched mint marks or small die cracks appear on some coins. One of the fascinating aspects of coin collecting is how certain pieces take on an almost legendary status. In the case of the 1969 penny, part of its mystique comes from its connection, however indirect, to the famous 1969 double die obverse, one of the most sought-after modern U.S. coins. While the Denver minted coins do not share this exact error, they exist in the shadow of that fame, and collectors often examine them closely in hopes of finding something special. For a coin to command a price as staggering as $310 million, it would have to stand apart in a way that is almost unimaginable, perhaps being the only surviving specimen of a previously unknown striking variation, or having been part of a significant historical event, or even being connected to a famous figure. In the world of ultra-high-end collecting, provenance can be as important as the physical condition. If, for example, a 1969 penny could be traced back to a presentation set given to a president, astronaut, or cultural icon, its value could skyrocket, driven not only by numismatic rarity but by its place in history. The coin's physical survival over more than half a century is also a factor to consider. Copper is relatively durable, but it can still suffer from environmental damage, especially if exposed to moisture, chemicals, or rough handling. A coin that has spent decades in circulation will develop wear on Lincoln's cheek, jawline, and hair, as well as flattening of the memorial's steps and columns. In contrast, a coin stored in a controlled environment can retain its sharpness, with every design element as crisp as the day it left the mint. Collectors use the Sheldon scale to grade coins, from poor 1 all the way to mint state 70, and moving just a few points higher on this scale can mean exponential increases in value. A theoretical perfect MS-70 1969 penny, combined with a compelling story, could indeed reach a price that defies imagination. The market for rare coins operates in a way that is part economics, part psychology, and part art. Prices are influenced by supply and demand, but also by the prestige and bragging rights of ownership. High-profile auctions create an atmosphere of competition, where bidders are willing to push beyond conventional valuations simply to secure the winning bid. In these environments, records can be shattered, and coins once thought of as modest collectibles can become headline-grabbing treasures. A $310 million sale would not only make history in the coin world but would likely spill over into mainstream news, sparking renewed interest in the hobby and sending thousands of people searching through jars of change in hopes of finding their own fortune in copper. The journey of a 1969 penny from the moment it left the mint presses to wherever it rests today can be imagined as a silent biography written in copper. Each tiny nick, scratch, or worn detail is like a chapter in its life, a testament to the countless transactions and pockets it has passed through. Some coins may have bought a child's candy in 1970, been part of a cash register drawer in a small-town diner, or sat unnoticed in a change jar on a kitchen counter for decades. Others might have gone into circulation briefly before being tucked away in a bankroll, untouched, awaiting a future in which it would be recognized not as spare change but as a collectible worth examining under magnification. Over time, coins naturally drift into two paths, the ordinary and the extraordinary. The ordinary circulate until they are worn down and eventually withdrawn from use, but the extraordinary are set aside, preserved, and sometimes enshrined as treasures. The 1969 penny exists in that intriguing space between everyday object and potential artifact of great value. For the average person, it may simply be a curiosity, look, this penny's older than me, but for the dedicated numismatist, each detail is a potential clue. The sharpness of the lettering, the way the mint mark is punched, the alignment of the die strike, and the surface quality can all hint at whether a coin is just another cent or a hidden gem. Collectors often use magnifying glasses or microscopes to look for signs of doubled die characteristics, repunched mint marks, or other subtle errors. While the Denver issue of 1969 is not known for the famous doubled die of the San Francisco Mint, it is still scrutinized for varieties that could make it stand out. Even a minor variety, if it is in flawless condition, can command premiums well beyond the ordinary value of a common penny. In thinking about how a coin's value can reach into the hundreds of millions, it's important to remember that coins, like fine art, are not valued purely by their materials. The copper in a 1969 penny is worth only a few cents at most, but its worth in the collector market is a product of scarcity, historical context, condition, and desirability. Scarcity is the most obvious driver. The fewer high-grade examples there are, the higher the potential value. Historical context gives the coin meaning, linking it to the events of its year. Condition preserves the artistry and craftsmanship of the design, making the coin aesthetically appealing. Desirability is more elusive. It can be influenced by trends, collector sentiment, and even media attention. A rare penny might go unnoticed for decades, but if a similar coin sells for an astronomical price, it can ignite interest across the hobby and beyond, pushing demand upward. Consider the scenario of a single 1969 penny being graded at the absolute pinnacle of mint state perfection, MS70, with blazing red luster, no visible contact marks, and flawless strike quality. Now imagine this coin has an extraordinary provenance. Perhaps it was part of an official presentation from the Denver Mint to commemorate a significant national event, and documentation proving this survives. Such a coin would not just be a physical object, it would be a tangible link to history, wrapped in rarity, condition, and story. In such a case, the theoretical sale price could spiral into realms most people would never associate with a penny. The kind of realms where $310 million, while astonishing, might actually find justification among the wealthiest collectors. The minting process itself, while mechanical, is also a source of human touchpoints that can influence a coin's rarity. In 1969, the Denver Mint still employed manual placement of the mint mark on the working dies, a step that could result in slight variations. Overpunches, misplacements, or doubled mint marks are fascinating to variety collectors. While they may be microscopic to the untrained eye, in the numismatic world, these quirks are often enough to elevate a coin into the status of a prized variety. The same is true for striking errors like off-center strikes, die cracks, or clipped planchets. These errors, combined with high grade and rarity, can make a 1969 penny dramatically more valuable than a standard example. Another element that plays into value is the role of professional grading services. In the modern coin market, having a coin authenticated and graded by a respected service such as the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, or Numismatic Guarantee Company, NGC, is essential for establishing its legitimacy and marketability. The encapsulated coin, sealed in a tamper-evident holder with its grade displayed, becomes a verified artifact. Collectors and investors alike are willing to pay a premium for the security and assurance that comes with this certification. A coin valued at $310 million would absolutely be graded and likely accompanied by an in-depth pedigree report tracing its ownership history through time. The romance of searching for rare coins like the 1969 penny comes from the idea that treasures can be hiding in plain sight. A story might emerge of someone who, without thinking, pulled a handful of change from a drawer, spotted an unusually shiny 1969 D penny, and on a whim decided to have it checked by a dealer only to discover they had stumbled upon a coin that would change their life forever. Such discoveries, though rare, have happened in the coin world, and each one fuels the dreams of collectors and casual treasure hunters alike. In a way, every 1969 D penny in circulation carries that potential, however small, and that possibility is what keeps people looking. Every rare coin has a moment in its past when it transitions from being just another product of the mint to becoming a collectible, and for some 1969 D Lincoln cents, that moment happened long before anyone noticed. Imagine a bank employee in the late 1960s receiving freshly delivered coin rolls from the Denver Mint, the paper wrappers still crisp and the copper coins inside gleaming with a reddish-gold brilliance. These rolls might have been stored in a vault, forgotten for decades, only to be rediscovered in pristine condition. Over time, the untouched coins inside would become miniature time capsules, preserving their original luster as if they had just rolled off the press yesterday. For a collector, opening such a roll is like stepping back in time, and the excitement of finding a flawless gem within is unmatched. In those mint rolls, the odds of finding a high-grade specimen, the kind that could be valued at an extraordinary amount, are much higher than searching through circulated coins, but condition alone doesn't account for the enormous price tags we sometimes see in the numismatic world. A $310 million valuation for a single penny sounds unreal unless we consider the interplay of multiple factors: condition, rarity, demand, and narrative. The narrative, the story behind the coin, can be as important as its physical attributes. Stories give objects meaning, and meaning is what drives passionate collectors to spend beyond logical limits. Perhaps the most valuable 1969 D penny isn't just a coin, but a coin that was presented during a landmark event, maybe to commemorate a historic visit to the Denver Mint by a U.S. president, or even carried aboard a space mission before returning to Earth. The presence of verifiable historical documentation transforms the coin from a rare collectible into a cultural artifact. At that point, its value is no longer just about numismatics, it's about owning a tangible piece of human history. For decades, collectors have debated the potential sleepers in the Lincoln Cents series, those dates and mint marks that are common enough to overlook but which may hold hidden treasures in their top grades or rare varieties. The 1969 D fits perfectly into that category. While billions were minted, the number of surviving coins in perfect condition is minuscule. Even fewer have exceptional visual appeal, with strong strike, full details, and brilliant red surfaces. The grading scale for coins uses color designations for copper pieces: RD, red; RB, red-brown; and BN, brown. A fully red coin from 1969, with not a hint of toning or spotting, is far scarcer than one might expect, especially when combined with a high numerical grade. Collectors and investors specifically target these fully red coins because they represent the pinnacle of preservation. The passage of time is a relentless enemy to copper coins. Even in storage, small environmental factors, humidity, temperature shifts, air pollutants, can cause gradual toning or spotting. That's why finding a 1969 D penny in its original mint state after more than half a century is a remarkable achievement. Professional conservation and proper storage, such as in inert holders or certified slabs, can halt further deterioration, preserving the coin for future generations. A high-value specimen today could, if cared for, remain just as beautiful 100 years from now, continuing to inspire awe in collectors yet unborn. The Denver Mint workers of 1969 likely had no idea that any of their coins would one day be valued in the hundreds of millions. For them, minting cents was a daily routine, part of the nation's economic machinery. Yet, unknowingly, they struck coins that would one day ignite the imaginations of collectors. There is a certain poetry in that, the idea that an object created for the most ordinary transactions could transcend its purpose and become a treasure. It's a reminder that value is not always inherent, sometimes it is bestowed by time, circumstance, and the collective agreement of those who cherish it. Even today, the thrill of the hunt for rare pennies drives an entire community of hobbyists. They comb through bank-wrapped rolls, coin jars, and estate sales, armed with magnifying lenses and reference books. Social media and online forums have brought collectors together in unprecedented ways, allowing them to share finds, trade knowledge, and inspire each other to keep searching. The story of the 1969 D penny valued at $310 million isn't just about one coin, it's about the shared dream that any of us might be holding something extraordinary without even knowing it. That dream is what keeps the world of numismatics alive and vibrant, generation after generation. When we picture a 1969 D Lincoln cent today, we're often seeing it in the context of its age, over half a century old, and yet, in the late 1960s, it was simply one of billions of coins entering commerce. Most people who spent these pennies never gave them a second thought, and that anonymity is part of what makes the survival of pristine examples so extraordinary. The Denver Mint struck these coins for everyday use, not for display cases, and so the vast majority were destined to endure the harsh conditions of circulation, clinking against other coins in pockets, rattling in vending machine hoppers, sliding across countertops, and being handled countless times by countless hands. This constant work quickly softens the sharp lines of Lincoln's portrait and erases the crispness of the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. A coin with full, unbroken detail is not just rare, it's a survivor of the highest order. In the world of coin collecting, survival in top condition is often the rarest trait of all. The initial mintage numbers of a coin can be in the hundreds of millions, but decades of circulation, mishandling, and environmental damage can whittle down the number of coins that qualify as true gems to just a handful. A $310 million 1969 D penny, if it exists, would not just be about its date and mint mark, it would be about that miraculous preservation against all odds. Imagine a coin that has been kept away from human touch since the very moment it left the press, shielded from air, moisture, and friction. Its surfaces would still gleam with that unmistakable red copper glow, the fine lines in Lincoln's hair sharply defined, every column of the memorial standing in perfect relief. This is the kind of condition that can make experienced collectors' hearts race. The history surrounding the year 1969 also adds a layer of fascination to the coin. It was a year marked by monumental events: the first humans walking on the moon during the Apollo 11 mission, Woodstock bringing together hundreds of thousands in a cultural revolution, the Vietnam War dominating headlines, and the ongoing fight for civil rights reshaping the nation. Each of these events formed part of the backdrop against which the 1969 D penny was minted. Holding such a coin can feel like holding a physical link to that time, a tiny, tangible reminder that this small object was created in a year when the world was changing at a breathtaking pace. That sense of history can amplify the emotional pull for collectors, making certain coins far more desirable than others from less eventful years. A coin valued at hundreds of millions would inevitably attract not only attention but also intense scrutiny. Every aspect of its authenticity would need to be verified, from the composition of the metal to the microscopic details of the strike. Advanced imaging techniques would be used to confirm there are no alterations, while metallurgical analysis could prove it was indeed struck from the proper copper alloy of the era. Provenance research would follow, attempting to trace its journey from mint to present day. The coin's owners, past and present, would become part of its legend, their stories intertwined with the coin's own. The narrative of ownership is not just a formality, it becomes part of the coin's identity, enhancing its aura and mystique. Collectors often speak of the one that got away, the coin they once had the chance to buy but didn't, or the one they searched for endlessly without success. If a 1969 D penny were ever confirmed to have sold for $310 million, it would instantly become the ultimate one that got away for countless enthusiasts. Its existence would inspire more people to start searching their own change, poring over bankrolls, and learning about minting processes in hopes of understanding what makes such a coin so special. The buzz from such a sale could lift the entire market, as heightened awareness drives demand for related coins from the same series and era, and yet, the story of a rare coin is never static. Values can rise and fall, markets can shift, and public interest can fade or rekindle. But for an ultra-rare 1969 D penny, the sheer magnitude of its value and story would ensure that it remained a point of fascination for generations. It would no longer be just a piece of currency, it would be a legend in copper, passed down through stories, auction catalogs, and maybe even museum displays. In that way, the coin's legacy would outlast the lifetime of any individual owner, becoming a permanent fixture in the lore of American numismatics. The mystique of a coin like the 1969 D penny lies in the fact that it can sit unnoticed among ordinary change, its extraordinary nature hidden in plain sight. This is the paradox that fuels the passion of coin hunters everywhere, the knowledge that somewhere out there, perhaps in a jar on a dusty shelf or hidden deep in an old cash register, a treasure could be waiting to be found. Every time someone picks up a penny and glances at its date and mint mark, they are engaging in a quiet form of discovery, scanning for that one detail that could make it different from all the rest. The 1969 D, with its strong connection to a moment in history and its potential for incredible value in pristine form, is a perfect example of why the hunt never gets old for those deeply invested in numismatics. the physical details of the coin are as important as the date itself. The obverse, with its precise engraving of Lincoln, offers countless points of analysis: the depth of the strike in the hair curls, the sharpness of the beard lines, the clarity of the Liberty lettering, and the spacing between numerals in the date. On some coins, subtle doubling can be detected under magnification, even if it is not the dramatic doubled die that made the 1969s famous. The mint mark, a small yet vital detail, is examined for signs of repunching or variation in position, clues that hint at the hand-applied nature of mint marks in that era. The reverse, too, offers opportunities for discovery. The tiny statue of Lincoln between the central columns of the memorial, the evenness of the steps, and the crispness of the E pluribus unum motto are all markers of quality and craftsmanship. A coin with flawless execution in all these areas becomes a prime candidate for top grading and, consequently, top value. It's worth noting that the market for ultra-rare coins often overlaps with the market for high-end collectibles of all kinds. The buyers who might compete for a $310 million penny are the same type of individuals who collect vintage Ferraris, rare art pieces, and historic documents. For them, the purchase is not simply about ownership, it's about acquiring something unique in the world, a piece of history that no one else can claim. The coin becomes part of a private gallery, a symbol of taste, wealth, and deep appreciation for the artistry and rarity inherent in numismatics. Just as a masterpiece painting can command astronomical sums, so too can a perfect, historically significant coin. For most collectors, of course, the appeal of the 1969 D penny is not about competing for a multi-million-dollar rarity, but about participating in a shared tradition. Searching rolls from banks, checking pocket change, and learning the finer points of grading and authentication are activities that connect them to a wider community. Even finding a 1969 D penny in moderately high grade can be satisfying, especially if it fills a missing spot in a Lincoln Cent album. The beauty of coin collecting is that it exists on multiple levels. The dream of the ultimate find fuels the pursuit, while the smaller discoveries along the way make the journey rewarding in their own right. One of the most remarkable things about coins is their durability as carriers of history. A 1969 D penny doesn't just bear a portrait and a building, it bears the marks of a year when the United States was navigating monumental change. In its copper surface, there is an echo of the hands that made it, the society that used it, and the stories it has passed through. If a coin could speak, perhaps it would tell of the factories and shops it visited, the milestones it witnessed, the decades of quiet circulation before ending up in the hands of someone who recognized its worth. And for a coin with a valuation in the hundreds of millions, that story becomes even more compelling, a narrative that blends the ordinary with the extraordinary, the everyday with the historic. The mystique of a coin like the 1969 D penny lies in the fact that it can sit unnoticed among ordinary change, its extraordinary nature hidden in plain sight. This is the paradox that fuels the passion of coin hunters everywhere, the knowledge that somewhere out there, perhaps in a jar on a dusty shelf or hidden deep in an old cash register, a treasure could be waiting to be found. Every time someone picks up a penny and glances at its date and mint mark, they are engaging in a quiet form of discovery, scanning for that one detail that could make it different from all the rest. The 1969 D, with its strong connection to a moment in history and its potential for incredible value in pristine form, is a perfect example of why the hunt never gets old for those deeply invested in numismatics. The physical details of the coin are as important as the date itself. The obverse, with its precise engraving of Lincoln, offers countless points of analysis: the depth of the strike in the hair curls, the sharpness of the beard lines, the clarity of the Liberty lettering, and the spacing between numerals in the date. On some coins, subtle doubling can be detected under magnification, even if it is not the dramatic doubled die that made the 1969s famous. The mint mark, a small yet vital detail, is examined for signs of repunching or variation in position, clues that hint at the hand-applied nature of mint marks in that era. The reverse, too, offers opportunities for discovery. The tiny statue of Lincoln between the central columns of the memorial, the evenness of the steps, and the crispness of the E pluribus unum motto are all markers of quality and craftsmanship. A coin with flawless execution in all these areas becomes a prime candidate for top grading and, consequently, top value. It's worth noting that the market for ultra-rare coins often overlaps with the market for high-end collectibles of all kinds. The buyers who might compete for a $310 million penny are the same type of individuals who collect vintage Ferraris, rare art pieces, and historic documents. For them, the purchase is not simply about ownership, it's about acquiring something unique in the world, a piece of history that no one else can claim. The coin becomes part of a private gallery, a symbol of taste, wealth, and deep appreciation for the artistry and rarity inherent in numismatics. Just as a masterpiece painting can command astronomical sums, so too can a perfect, historically significant coin. For most collectors, of course, the appeal of the 1969 D penny is not about competing for a multi-million-dollar rarity, but about participating in a shared tradition. Searching rolls from banks, checking pocket change, and learning the finer points of grading and authentication are activities that connect them to a wider community. Even finding a 1969 D penny in moderately high grade can be satisfying, especially if it fills a missing spot in a Lincoln Cent album. The beauty of coin collecting is that it exists on multiple levels. The dream of the ultimate find fuels the pursuit, while the smaller discoveries along the way make the journey rewarding in their own right. One of the most remarkable things about coins is their durability as carriers of history. A 1969 D penny doesn't just bear a portrait and a building, it bears the marks of a year when the United States was navigating monumental change. In its copper surface, there is an echo of the hands that made it, the society that used it, and the stories it has passed through. If a coin could speak, perhaps it would tell of the factories and shops it visited, the milestones it witnessed, the decades of quiet circulation before ending up in the hands of someone who recognized its worth. And for a coin with a valuation in the hundreds of millions, that story becomes even more compelling, a narrative that blends the ordinary with the extraordinary, the everyday with the historic. The journey of the 1969 D penny is, in many ways, a microcosm of the larger story of American coinage. Every small detail tells us something not just about minting technology, but about the cultural and economic environment of the late 1960s. By 1969, the United States Mint had been producing the Lincoln Cent for 6 decades, and the design by Victor David Brenner had become a national icon. Millions of Americans could recognize Lincoln's portrait instantly, whether they were numismatists or not. Yet, for all its familiarity, the coin still retained the potential to surprise. That year's Denver Mint output would include not only the standard production runs but also a handful of coins that, through perfect preservation, exceptional striking, or rare die characteristics, would stand apart from the billions of others. What makes a coin like this resonate so deeply with collectors is not just its rarity, but the sense of connection it offers to the past. Imagine holding a flawless 1969 D penny in your hand and realizing that it was minted during the first year Americans walked on the moon. That same year, Woodstock brought together 500,000 people for a cultural milestone, and the Vietnam War was shaping national conversation. The penny in your palm was part of that moment in time, silently witnessing a chapter of history that shaped generations. This emotional layer adds weight to its financial value. It's not just a coin, it's a time capsule. In the numismatic world, the story of provenance, the history of ownership, can elevate a coin's status dramatically. If a 1969 D penny can be traced back through a series of prestigious collections, auction houses will highlight that lineage in their catalogs. A coin once owned by a famous collector, or even a public figure, instantly becomes more desirable. Provenance offers a guarantee of authenticity, but it also adds a narrative element. Collectors love stories, and a coin that comes with a story, whether of a spectacular find, a connection to history, or a record-breaking sale, becomes more than just metal, it becomes legend. In terms of market behavior, high-profile sales of rare coins often set off a chain reaction. If one pristine 1969 D penny were to achieve a $310 million price tag, you could expect a surge in submissions of 1969 D pennies to grading companies. People across the country would begin emptying their coin jars, hunting for that perfect gem. Bank tellers would start seeing unusual requests for penny rolls. Online marketplaces would fill with listings for rare 1969 D Lincoln Cents, most of them ordinary, but all of them benefiting from the increased attention. This phenomenon has happened before. In the wake of big sales, the coin market experiences a temporary wave of excitement and speculation. It's important to understand that a valuation in the hundreds of millions is not just about condition or rarity, it's about a convergence of factors. The physical perfection of the coin, its historical context, its potential uniqueness, and the competitive nature of elite collectors all play a role. But there's also something intangible, the sense that this particular coin, out of all the billions produced, has become a symbol. It represents the height of what a penny can be, the ultimate expression of its type. That symbolic status is what allows it to break free from traditional pricing models and enter the realm of cultural artifact. The preservation of such a coin is a science in itself. For copper, environmental control is critical. Even a brief exposure to humidity or direct sunlight can start the slow process of toning, altering the coin's color from bright red to brown over decades. While some collectors prize the natural patina that develops, the ultra-high value market favors original mint red luster. Coins kept in inert holders, stored in climate-controlled vaults, and handled only with gloves or specialized tools can remain in pristine condition for generations. It's this meticulous care, or sheer luck of perfect storage, that allows a coin to survive over half a century without losing any of its brilliance to eye. In the end, the 1969 Pennies mystique lies in its dual identity. On one hand, it's the most ordinary of objects, passed over without a second glance in daily transactions. On the other hand, in its rarest and most perfect form, it's a treasure capable of commanding sums that rival the most expensive works of art. That contradiction is part of the allure of coin collecting, the idea that wealth and history can hide in plain sight, waiting for the right eyes to see them. One of the most fascinating aspects of the 1969 penny story is how perception shapes value. To the average person, a penny is simply the smallest unit of currency, worth so little that many people won't bother picking one up off the ground. Yet to a numismatist, that same coin could represent the culmination of decades of minting tradition, artistic craftsmanship, and historical preservation. The psychological shift that happens when someone learns that a single example could be worth hundreds of millions is profound. Suddenly, every penny becomes a potential treasure, every handful of change a mystery waiting to be solved. This shift in perception is one of the reasons coin collecting continues to captivate people across generations. When it comes to the Denver Mint specifically, the production of Lincoln cents in 1969 was a high-volume operation. Billions of coins were struck that year, meaning the odds of finding an exceptional one are incredibly slim. But rarity in the coin world doesn't only stem from mintage numbers, it comes from survival rates in top condition. While billions were made, almost all entered circulation immediately, rattling in pockets, clinking in tills, and enduring years of wear. A perfect specimen had to escape that fate entirely, perhaps being pulled from the production line and stored by a mint employee, sealed in a bank bag that was never opened, or tucked away by a sharp-eyed collector the year it was issued. The fact that such coins have survived at all is remarkable. The allure of the $310 million valuation is also tied to the competitive nature of the ultra-wealthy collectors market. When the pool of potential buyers consists of just a handful of individuals with virtually unlimited resources, prices can escalate far beyond what most would consider logical. In this environment, value is dictated less by traditional price guides and more by the passion, pride, and determination of those involved. For the right buyer, the 1969 penny wouldn't be a purchase in the conventional sense, it would be a victory, a personal conquest in the world of high-stakes collecting. Cultural factors also play a role in the mystique. The Lincoln cent is arguably the most recognized coin in American history, and Abraham Lincoln himself is one of the most revered figures in U.S. culture. His image on the coin adds a layer of emotional resonance. Owning the finest example of a 1969 penny is, in a way, like owning the most perfect portrait of Lincoln ever struck in copper. That symbolic significance can't be measured in simple economic terms. It's about legacy, heritage, and the preservation of a national icon. Technology has also changed the way coins like this are valued and discovered. Decades ago, identifying a perfect or error coin required in-person examination by experienced numismatists. Today, high-resolution photography, digital magnification, and online coin forums allow collectors to share and verify discoveries instantly. This has created a networked, global community of enthusiasts, all of whom are constantly on the lookout for remarkable finds. Yet, for all the advantages technology brings, there remains something timeless about the moment of discovery, that instant when a collector realizes they are holding something truly extraordinary. The market dynamics surrounding such a coin are also shaped by rarity across all grades. Even if most 1969 pennies are worth only their face value or slightly more in circulated condition, the knowledge that a few pristine examples exist creates a halo effect. It keeps interest alive, fuels searches, and ensures that every 1969 penny pulled from circulation is examined with care. This ripple effect keeps the story of the coin alive in the public imagination, ensuring that its legend grows with each passing year. For collectors who dream of one day owning such a piece, the key lesson is patience and knowledge. The road to finding a once-in-a-lifetime coin is rarely short. It involves years of studying die varieties, learning how to spot even the faintest imperfections, and understanding the subtle art of grading. The more knowledge a collector gains, the more prepared they are to recognize value where others see only common change. This combination of study, dedication, and a bit of luck is what keeps the world of coin collecting endlessly engaging. As we bring the journey of the 1969 D penny to a close, it's important to recognize that this isn't just the story of a coin, it's the story of how something ordinary can become extraordinary through a combination of history, preservation, and human fascination. From the moment that blank copper planchet was fed into the Denver Mint's coining press more than half a century ago, its fate could have been just like billions of others: months in circulation, years of scratches and wear, and eventually a quiet disappearance into a jar or a bank deposit. But against all odds, one coin emerged that defied that destiny, surviving in a state so pristine, so utterly flawless, that it rewrote the rules of what a penny could be worth. The $310 million valuation is more than a number, it's a reflection of everything this coin represents. It's a testament to Abraham Lincoln's enduring legacy, to the artistry of the U.S. Mint engravers, and to the passion of collectors who dedicate their lives to preserving history in its smallest forms. It speaks to the thrill of the hunt, that electric moment when a collector realizes they may be holding a once-in-a-lifetime treasure in the palm of their hand. In a world where so much of our currency now exists as digital numbers on a screen, a physical coin like the 1969 D penny feels even more special. You can hold it, turn it in the light, and appreciate the deep, rich red of its copper surface. You can trace the smooth rim with your fingertip, admire the sharpness of Lincoln's profile, and see the tiniest details of the Lincoln Memorial engraved with care on the reverse. It's an object that engages the senses, connects you to history, and stands as a reminder that beauty and value can be found in the smallest, most overlooked places. The legacy of this coin will not end with a single sale. Whether housed in a private vault, displayed in a museum under perfect lighting, or featured in books and documentaries, the story of the 1969 D penny will continue to inspire. It will push collectors to search their own change more carefully, to study varieties in minting history, and to dream that they, too, might uncover a treasure. And even for those who never hold the $310 million specimen, the idea that such a thing exists adds a spark of magic to the everyday act of handling a coin. One day, perhaps far in the future, this penny may change hands again. It may set a new record, sparking headlines around the globe and reminding the world once more that value is not always dictated by size, weight, or even original purpose. Sometimes, value is about rarity, story, and the human desire to own something truly unique. And so, as we end this journey, remember, the next time a penny passes through your hands, pause for a moment. Look at the date. Study the details. Because history doesn't always shout, sometimes, it whispers softly from a small copper coin that most would overlook. And in that whisper, there could be a story worth not just a fortune, but a lifetime of wonder.